Hello, second graders. This is Mrs. Gilmore, and we are going to start with our Unit 1, Lesson 9 today. So make sure you're on Unit 1, Lesson 9. And the first thing I want you to do is turn to page 25. And page 25, you're going to see Dive the Deep on that page. And the first thing I want you to do is take a look at all three of these columns. So this is a column, and the second column, and the third column. So if you look at these columns, how do they look alike? How are something that they have similar, something that's kind of the same about them? So what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video and I want you to take a look and see if you can find something that is the same, and then go ahead and turn the video back on and we'll see if we agree. Okay, if I'm looking at this video, I see a couple things that are similar. If you look, you can see that every one of these columns in all the equations, it's missing either an addend or a total. So if you look, you can see totals are missing in the first column, and then in the middle column you're missing one of the addends you're missing, and then in the third column you've got a total here that you're missing, but it's going to be one of your addends again. So you are missing an addend in each one of these columns. How is the equations in the middle column here different from the other ones? In the middle column, the unknown number is the number that got subtracted. So in the middle of your equation is your unknown number. But the other columns, your unknown number is the number left after subtracting. So you can see the number in the middle column here is the number that you're missing, the unknown number, and in the first column and the third column you have the number that's left is the number that is left when you subtract the other two. So I want you to go through and just make sure you see those patterns. Then I want you to turn to page, actually, let's just go to the next slide. If I write this equation on my board here, and I'm left with a box of my total, I don't know what I'm missing, you can see there are three addends in this equation. So I want you to think about a situation where you might see these three numbers. Okay, so right now I want you to think about a word problem. If you're working with a partner, I want you to pause the video and see if you can come up with a word problem that would tell a story about these three numbers being put together. And then I want you to write that word problem in your math journal as you're reading or as you're watching the video. And then Mrs. Gilmore is going to share her word problem with you when you turn the video back on. So go ahead and try to come up with your own word problem. Okay, so Mrs. Gilmore's word problem is this. I saw some kittens at the animal shelter. 6 of them were yellow, 2 of them were gray, and 8 of them were black and white. How many kittens did I see total? So think about your word problem. I want you to think, how can we solve this problem that has 3 addends in it? There's a couple different ways you could solve it. If you look at these two numbers here, I can put the numbers 2 and 8 together to make the number 10. So if I put 2 and 8 together, all I'm really saying is 6 plus 10, which is my combination of 2 and 8. And that's a lot easier to do in my head because I can add anything on top of 10 and it's a lot easier. So 6 plus 10 is 16. Or the other thing you can do is you can combine your 6 plus 2 to make 8. And 8 plus 8 is a doubles number. And if I remember practicing my doubles the other day, I know 8 plus 8 is 16. So I can find 16 using my doubles, or I can find 16 by making a 10 and then adding my extra 6. You probably may have come up with a different way of how you added these 3 addends together, and that is just fine. Whatever strategy works best for you. So now I want you to turn to page 27 in your Page 27 starts with find a sum of 10 at the top. And, oops, shouldn't have done that so quickly. Okay, find a sum of 10. So it says ring 2 addends that make 10 and then write the total. So I'm going to start with the first number 1 and I'm going to ask myself, are there any numbers, these 3 numbers that I can put together to make 10? Well, I see one right here, 9 plus 1 I can put together to make 10. And then I can easily add 6 plus 10 in my head and my total is going to be 16. So the same thing I'm going to do for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'm going to do number 2. I'm trying to find two of these numbers, these addends, to put together to make 10. And I see I can put 7 and 3 together to make 10. And then I can add 5 plus that 10 that I just made. And that's 15. I want you to do the same thing with number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. See if you can make a 10 and then do your total. So at the bottom of this page, you're going to write the total of all 3 of the addends, and you can figure out the best way for you to try and solve these equations at the bottom of the page. So see if you can find some combinations to put together, maybe make a 10, or find some doubles you can use. So however you can try and solve the problems, the equations at the bottom of the page here for number 9 through number 16. That is up to you, whatever strategy you want to use. So go ahead and pause the video and finish up that page, and then go ahead and start the video back up. Okay, so this is page 28 in your student activity book. And this page is going to seem a little bit different than the one before because you are now adding 4 addends. So this is going to be one of those same situations, is what kind of strategies can I use to add these numbers to make it a little bit easier for myself. So for instance, for number 17, if I look at 4 plus 4 plus 5 plus 2, so I have 4 addends now I have to add together. How can I figure out how to add these to make it easiest to add in my head? So here would be a strategy you might use. You can say, oh, I know this double, 4 plus 4 is 8. Then I have an 8 and I have a 2 over here, which means if I combine my 8 over here with my 2, I can make a 10. And then all I have left to add to that 10 is my leftover 5. So that makes it a lot easier. I know my sum can be 15 that way. The other thing we might use as a different strategy is you can add 4 plus 4 again and make your doubles of 8. Then you can add 5 plus 2, which is your 7. And then if you can add 8 plus 7 in your head, you know 8 plus 8 would equal 16, and you just added 8 plus 7, which would be 1 less than that. So 8 plus 7 should be 15. So there's a couple different ways you can put these together, and the best thing you can do on this page is just come up with the best strategy that works for you to try and add numbers 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22 the best way possible to try and get it as easy as you can to add in your head. And then at the bottom of the page, you're going to be adding and subtracting within 20. So, at the bottom of the page, you want to think about how can I put my 6 for number 23, how can I put my 6 plus 8 together? And if you think about, 8 plus 8 is 16 again. And 6 is 2 less than 8, so your answer would have to be 2 less than 16, which is 14. Okay, so again, the same thing. At the bottom of the page, you want to try and come up with your own strategies to help you out with adding and subtracting. And the other thing you want to remember is that in this situation, number 23, 24, and 25, you are answering equations going horizontally from left to right. In 26, 27, 28, and 29, you are answering equations going vertically up and down. And then at the bottom of the page, 30, 31, 32, 33, don't be confused. You've got subtraction signs down here, so here's where you're going to practice your subtraction. Go ahead and finish up those student activity book pages and then come check your pages with Mrs. Gilmore.